What is going on, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be breaking down, is Alchemist the best hero of patch 7.37e? Honestly, if you guys are not picking Alchemist, you guys are missing out on a ton of MMR. He is by far the best hero of this patch, and not because he got buffed or anything. It's just Alchemist's time to shine. He got a nerf, but it wasn't major enough to the point to actually hurt this hero. It actually helped this hero out somehow, because they only nerfed a few seconds of his stun. It's nothing too significant, but with the seed money facet, which gives you 250 gold at the start of the game, that's what's going to kickstart your game, and that's what's going to help you scale so much more than other carries. The timings you're able to hit on Alchemist are unmatched by other heroes in the game, especially if you know what you're doing. One of the things you need to keep in mind when you guys are picking Alchemist is to farm and stack for yourself, and I say this because you can't really rely on your teammates to do everything for you. If you have a teammate that can stack for you, then fantastic, but I don't depend on it. When I go into a game, I go in with the mindset that if there's nothing to do in the lane, I go stack my own camps, and if my support wants to help me out and they want to stack for me as well, then fantastic, that's double the stacking. But I wait till I'm not doing anything in lane, I shove out the lane, go stack my camp, and then when there's nothing to do, I can go take that camp and really increase my farm efficiency. Your farming patterns are very, very important to be very successful on Alchemist, because some games you're going to run into really tough situations and very difficult matchups that you're going to need that fast radiance, you're going to need that fast blink BKB timing, and you're not going to be able to afford many mistakes, because if you get a 15-16 minute radiance, you could be in trouble in some of these games. But if you get yourself a 12-minute radiance with treads and a soul ring, then you're pretty much good to go and you're able to take over the game. But a lot of games are decided based on these timings, and Alchemist is the type of hero that can easily get to these timings if you know what you're doing. So I do recommend you guys to farm as much as possible, and don't get greedy to the point where you want to be all over the place and you stop farming just to go to the sidelines for an extra pickoff. Like, you can join your team if it's really that necessary and you have your radiance, then yeah, you can definitely join your team. But I think pre-radiance, unless it's an absolute free fight that you can just come in, stun someone and take them out, I wouldn't recommend that, because you can take a stack and get more gold than any kill that can be offered to you on the map. So definitely keep that in mind, as I see a lot of Alchemist players tunnel visioning to the point where they just ignore farming and start going for kills, and that can really hinder their timings. Let's talk about the build. So Alchemist build typically doesn't change a whole lot. It goes down to personal preference when it comes to boots. A lot of people like treads, a lot of people like phase boots. I personally like treads and almost never go phase boots. The only reason I would go phase boots is because they have a heavy physical lineup or a bunch of slows, and I might want to be able to be a little bit faster with the phase boots. That's pretty much the only reason I'd go for that, but treads is pretty much the way to go. That extra attack speed and tank ability is always going to be my go-to pick when it comes to Alchemist. And then I'm going to go for the soul ring and the bracer for the laning phase. That's going to be more than enough. You can get yourself a wand if you're going to get value from it, but if they're not casting a whole lot of spells, then definitely skip it. And then obviously you go for your radiance, and then you go for a blink. This is your go time to start going for pickoffs and getting as many kills as possible if they don't have a lot of lockdown. If they do have a lot of lockdown, then you need that BKB. That will be your next timing. And in terms of what you go next can be very different on what the game requires. Sometimes you might go back for an Assault Cuirass, sometimes you might go back for a Sanju Yasha. It honestly depends on what the game calls for. I like going for items like Bloodthorn, Abyssal, Manta if need be. If I'm facing up against heroes like Terrorblade, I do like to pick up the Manta, because Terrorblade has a ton of illusions and I don't want him to single me out. So I'd rather have a Manta for myself. That way my illusions are a little bit better. They're not going to be better than Terrorblade's illusions, but with the Radiance, they will be pretty decent illusions, and they will help you out in the fight, and it will help you not get singled out as hard, especially when the Terrorblade gets himself a Scotty. Then you're going to be in a world of pain, because you're not going to be able to regen as much from Chemical Rage. And Terrorblade is a very popular hero right now in the meta for the offlane, so you need to keep this matchup in mind when you guys are facing up against the Terrorblade. You might run into a few issues because Terrorblade has a lot of armor, so it's very difficult for you to kick him out of lane, but you definitely can kill him if you have the right support pairing. Heroes like Lich and Ogre are very good support pairings for the Alchemist, so I do recommend you guys to play with that, as well as Lion or Tusk, both very, very solid supports. Even heroes like Shadow Shaman, which I don't see a whole lot nowadays, but definitely can be a decent pairing for that extra lockdown, for you to get that acid spray going and for you to be able to lay into them with Chemical Rage, and at the end of their stun you can stun them as well with your concoction. Another key tip for Alchemist players is don't fight without Chemical Rage. I see this happening more often than not, and it really annoys me to see a lot of players just fighting without Chemical Rage. Without Chemical Rage, your impact in the fight is pretty hindered. I won't say you're absolutely useless, because you still have your acid spray and you still have a stun and you have a slow as well. You're not absolutely useless, but if you go from 100% ability to do something, you go down to pretty much like a 50%. So it's definitely not the right idea to be fighting without chemical rage unless you have absolutely no choice, or maybe it's about 10 seconds away from getting chemical rage again. Then definitely go for the fight. You can definitely do it within 10 seconds if you're not going to get bursted. Other than that, don't fight without chemical rage. Typically, I will ping it out so my teammates know as soon as chemical rage comes up, we can go take a tower, we can go take Roche, or we can go take the high ground. But without chemical rage, I am not going to be doing anything. I'm going to go take some side camps, get some farm, and once that cooldown comes back, then it's go time. In the ultra late game, I'd like to pick up a refresher, not only to have a second BKB or a second satanic, because some games you might actually need a freaking satanic because there's so much burst damage. A lot of these Dagon builders, heroes like Pugna, heroes like Nyx Assassin, can definitely be very, very frustrating and very annoying. So you might end up picking up a refresher. These types of items are really good in the ultra late game, and having 2 chemical rage is definitely very important. Can make you absolutely unkillable, especially if they don't have a Scotty. Now let's break down some of the best and worst matchups for the Alchemist. Some of the best matchups are Enigma, Puck, Lone Druid, Meepo, Medusa. These matchups you're very good up against, and you can definitely do some work. Heroes like Dragonite as well, you can do a lot too. And heroes like Phantom Assassin are typically good up against you, but it's more of a skill matchup. If the Phantom Assassin is equal with farm with you, then she can definitely take the advantage, but you should be out farming her more often than not, unless it's a very difficult game for you. But in the ultra late game, I think Phantom Assassin definitely takes that game, but it's a matchup that can swing here and there. So don't be afraid to pick it into Phantom Assassin, because your Monkey King bar timing is a lot faster than what she can accomplish with her Battle Fury Deso build. You can do a lot more than that, and you also like to build Assault Curiosity. It'll help you out with some of the physical damage and kind of get you out of some sticky situations. And in a matchup like that, Satanic can definitely come in handy because you might get bursted by the Phantom Assassin. And some of the bad matchups are Night Stalker, Ursa, Monkey King, Timbersaw, Clinks. Heroes like Monkey King and Night Stalker are pretty popular right now, especially the Monkey King. Night Stalker is more hit or miss. It's more specialist players trying to pick him up and trying to make him work. The hero isn't super strong, but Monkey King is pretty strong right now, especially against Kez. So he's being picked more often than not, and he can do very well against the Alchemist. Now, obviously, he needs to have enough farm to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Alchemist. Your timings are a lot faster. So this is what saves you against some of your worst matchups. Even though they might do heavy physical damage, like a hero like Ursa, if you're out farming him by 2 items, the matchup can be easily swayed. So farm is everything when you're playing a hero like Alch. So make sure you're at the top of that leaderboard in terms of farm, and make sure you are making the right plays and get that Roshan denied for the Ursa, and you're going to be having a really good time against that hero, and you're going to be shutting him down. And there's not a whole lot of options the Ursa is going to have. Now in the straight up 1v1, you will most likely get crushed in terms of the mid to late game. That hero is just going to do a lot to you, but this is a team game. So with a little bit of backup from your team, maybe a Solar Crest, you will be just fine against the hero like Ursa. But overall, definitely my favorite hero of the patch. Super strong, and he finally passed the 50% win rate mark, and I have a feeling this hero is probably going to climb up to 52, maybe 53% win rate in the upcoming weeks as players start to play him and realize how strong Alchemist is right now. This is definitely an Alchemist patch in my opinion. Let me know in the comments below if you guys are Alchemist specialists or if you guys are spammers, if you guys are picking the Alchemist this patch. I definitely think it is the best time to be playing Alch. Even though he did not get buffed, he's still the strongest hero in my personal opinion, and based on game time, I haven't lost a single Alchemist game, even up against really tough matchups and really difficult games where I died 2 or 3 times in the laning phase, where game looked very grim, very dire, and we absolutely rolled them in the late game, which is a very good feeling for the hero, as Alchemist typically was not a super late game hero. He'd typically fall off against other carries. Nowadays, I think Alchemist can definitely hold his own in the ultra late game as well, just for the fact that you can pretty much build absolutely anything and consistently change out your items if they're not working, because you're making so much gold. You're like a money making machine. This hero is just an absolute beast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys learned something, consider subscribing and joining the Dota Chronicles community. I'm super excited, guys. We hit over 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for everyone that has been a part of this journey. We are going to continue to grow and pump out the best videos possible. If you guys want to see any other heroes being posted on the channel, something that you guys want to see, maybe a guide, definitely let me know your suggestions in the comments. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.